Have you ever wondered why some people walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a word? What if I told you that your silence could be louder than your words? That true presence doesn't come from force, but from stillness. In this video, we're diving deep into a forgotten truth, the power of non-reactivity and Stoicism, the hidden traits behind real personal magnetism. Before we begin, subscribe to this channel if you're serious about mastering your emotions, leveling up your self-worth, and becoming magnetic from within. Let's unlock the calm force inside you. 1. Non-reactivity, the new superpower. Magnetism isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most composed. It's not the person who shouts the most commands or dominates the conversation who holds the most influence. It's the one who radiates calm in the midst of chaos. This composure becomes a gravitational force. People sense it. They're drawn to it. Why? Because in a world addicted to reaction, where emotions fly unfiltered and impulse leads the charge, restraint is power. Take Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger, for example. When the engines on his plane failed, he didn't scream, panic, or freeze. He paused. He analyzed. He made clear, deliberate choices. And in doing so, he safely landed a commercial aircraft in the Hudson River, saving all 155 people on board. That moment wasn't just about training, it was about mastery of his emotional state. He had conditioned himself to respond, not react. That is rare. And that rarity is what gave him undeniable influence. We live in an age of instant reactions. A tweet can be fired off in seconds, an insult can be responded to in milliseconds. People confuse speed with power, but true power is slow, deliberate, grounded. The one who can resist the pull of the moment and choose their response carries a kind of authority that cannot be faked. Non-reactivity isn't weakness, it's control. It's the refusal to let your emotions be hijacked by circumstance. When someone insults you and you smile calmly in response, you send a signal. You don't control me. When chaos surrounds you and you remain composed, others instinctively look to you for leadership. They feel safe around you. Trust is built not from loud declarations, but from consistent calm under pressure. This discipline doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you've learned to feel them without being ruled by them. You can acknowledge anger, frustration, or fear without letting it dictate your behavior. That separation between stimulus and response is where your power lives. Building this superpower takes time. It requires daily training, small moments where you choose not to react immediately. Someone cuts you off in traffic, breathe. A colleague disrespects you, observe, don't retaliate. A loved one speaks out of anger, listen without being provoked. Every choice not to react strengthens your internal fortress. In time, people will notice. They'll sense your stability. You'll speak less, but when you do, your words will carry weight. You'll act slower, but your movements will command attention. Non-reactivity is the foundation of presence, and presence is the hallmark of power. 2. Silence, the language of strength. In a noisy world, silence isn't just golden, it's rare. And what's rare becomes valuable. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you, not just heard your words, but gave you their full attention. No interruptions, no distractions, just quiet presence. That kind of silence is unforgettable. It makes you feel seen, understood. Now imagine being the one who gives that kind of presence. That's power. The quietest person in the room often has the most impact, not because they say the most, but because when they do speak, people listen. Silence is not about absence, it's about presence. It's a signal that you're in control of your energy. that you don't need to fill every gap with noise or prove your worth through constant chatter. You're already enough. A calm mind isn't an empty one, it's a focused one. When your thoughts aren't racing, when you're not preparing your next argument while someone else is talking, you become magnetic. People lean in, curious about what's going on behind that stillness. Silence also allows observation. While others are talking, you're noticing. You're reading body language. You're sensing tension. You're gathering intelligence. This gives you a strategic advantage, because while others are revealing their positions, you're building yours with precision. Mastering silence also means mastering the ego. The ego wants to prove, to defend, to explain. But a secure person doesn't need constant validation. They don't need to win every argument or dominate every conversation. They let their actions speak louder than words, and their silence louder than noise. Practicing silence isn't just about speaking less. It's about listening more. It's about pausing before you respond, giving space for thought. It's about recognizing that not every comment requires a comeback. Sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being strategic. There's a difference between silence out of fear and silence out of strength. The latter is a conscious choice. It's the weapon of the disciplined, not the retreat of the timid. So stop chasing the room. Let the room chase you. Your silence will say everything they need to know. 3. Letting go is strength, not coldness. Let's get something clear. Detachment is not indifference. It's not emotional coldness. It's not a sign you don't care. It's the opposite. It's emotional maturity. It's the understanding that your peace is more important than external validation. David Goggins didn't run ultra-marathons to impress anyone. He didn't become one of the toughest men on earth because he needed a round of applause. He did it for himself, for his own transformation. That kind of inner motivation creates power that no one can take away. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel deeply, but you don't allow those feelings to control your actions. It means you can love without clinging. You can care without losing yourself. You can give without expecting a return. This emotional discipline is a superpower in a world built on emotional reactions. We're trained to seek validation from parents, peers, followers. But when your self-worth is tied to external opinions, you become a prisoner. You'll do things not because they're right, but because they're popular. You'll betray your values just to avoid disapproval. That's not power, that's dependence. True strength comes from within. When you can walk away from toxic relationships, not because you don't care, but because you care enough about your peace. When you can stay silent in the face of provocation, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to be pulled into chaos. When you let go of needing recognition, your energy becomes focused, pure, magnetic. People who let go are often mistaken for cold, but they're not cold, they're clear. Clear on their boundaries, clear on their mission, clear on their value. They don't chase because they know what's meant for them will align without force. Letting go also creates space. When you're not grasping, controlling, or obsessing, you open yourself to receive. You become available, not just to opportunities, but to real connection. People feel safer around someone who doesn't need them to fill a void. That safety becomes gravity. That gravity builds trust. So if you find yourself clinging, ask why. What are you afraid to lose? Often, the thing we're afraid to release is the very thing blocking our growth. Letting go isn't a loss, it's a trade. You're trading attachment for freedom, anxiety for peace, noise for clarity. And when you do that, you stop needing to prove yourself. You simply are. That's when the world starts paying attention. 4. Boundaries are attractive, not defensive. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful things you can do, not just for your own well-being, but for how others perceive and respect you. There's a myth that boundaries are walls meant to push others away. In reality, boundaries are invitations to connection, but on respectful terms. They are the blueprint for how others should engage with you. When you don't have them, you end up giving away your time, energy, and peace to people who haven't earned it. Look at any highly respected person, someone who commands presence without saying a word. They all have one thing in common: they're not easily accessible. Not because they're trying to be arrogant or distant, but because they've built a life that protects their inner peace. Their attention isn't handed out freely. Their time isn't available to anyone who asks. They choose where they give themselves. That's not cold, it's powerful. Take Serena Williams, for example. On the tennis court, she is a fortress of focus, not just because she has talent, but because she protects her mental and emotional space like it's sacred ground. She doesn't allow critics, fans, or even her competitors to shake her. That isn't just skill, that's discipline and boundaries at work. If she let every opinion into her mental space, she'd collapse under the weight of expectation. But she doesn't. She draws the line. And that's what keeps her power intact. When you build boundaries, you are communicating your worth without having to say it out loud. You are saying, "This is how I expect to be treated. This is the standard." It doesn't require yelling. It doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's as simple as not responding to a message right away, or choosing not to engage in arguments that go nowhere, or saying no without explaining why. These are small but mighty expressions of self-respect. The irony is that many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear losing love or connection. They think being available all the time will make others like them more. But it doesn't work that way. Constant availability can actually lead to people taking you for granted. When you don't have limits, people will unconsciously test them. And eventually they'll stop valuing what you give because you've given too much too easily. Boundaries are not about rejection, they're about clarity. They let people know where they stand and what you will or will not tolerate. And people, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to clarity. They are drawn to those who know themselves and are not afraid to protect their peace. Boundaries create structure, and structure breeds respect. More importantly, boundaries protect your energy. If you're constantly drained, constantly overwhelmed, constantly frustrated, it's likely because you've let too many things cross your emotional threshold. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, you are saying no to your inner peace. Boundaries reverse that. They help you say yes to yourself more often. Even silence can be a boundary. You don't need to explain your every move. When you hold your energy close, when you don't immediately respond or react, you send a message. People feel it. They feel your calm, your decisiveness, your strength. That unspoken power is attractive. Not because you're playing games, but because you're grounded, and people respect what is grounded. So if you want to be more magnetic, stop people-pleasing. Start protecting your space. Stop justifying your limits. Start honoring them. Remember, you teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And when you hold yourself with dignity, others follow your lead. 5. Mystery, the pull of the grounded unknown. We live in a world where everything is shared, revealed, posted, and overshared. Everyone's trying to be seen, trying to prove their worth, trying to show they belong. But in that race for attention, something rare has become valuable: mystery. Mystery doesn't mean being aloof or playing games. It means knowing yourself so deeply that you don't feel the need to explain or perform for others. You show up as you are, fully present, fully aware, and fully grounded. And that quiet confidence creates a gravitational pull. Think about the people you're most intrigued by. They don't broadcast every thought or detail of their lives. They're calm, but not passive. They're present, but not needy. They reveal just enough to connect, but not enough to be predictable. That unpredictability keeps you curious. That's the power of mystery. Predictability is safe. It's what we expect from routines and roles. But it doesn't spark fascination. When you already know what someone will say, do, or feel, it's comforting, sure, but it's not captivating. The people who truly pull us in, the ones we find compelling, leave space for us to wonder about them. That space is what creates the magnetic tension. The mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about revealing who you are slowly, intentionally, and selectively. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves full access to you. When you hold some of yourself back, not as a defense mechanism, but as a choice, you create depth, you create contrast. And that contrast between what's seen and what's unseen is what draws people in. Grounded mystery comes from inner stillness. It comes from not needing external validation. When you're rooted in who you are, you don't feel the urge to overshare to feel significant. You don't jump to fill silences. You're okay letting others wonder. That's where your power grows, in silence, in the spaces between words, in the pauses between actions. This isn't manipulation, it's mastery. The mastery of your own energy, your presence, your narrative. You don't let the world pull you out of yourself. You choose how much you give, when, and to whom. That control over your own energy is deeply attractive. There's also confidence in unpredictability. When you are unpredictable, not in a chaotic way, but in a composed and fluid way, you keep people on their toes. You show that you can adapt, move, shift, evolve. You don't become rigid, and that ability to evolve without losing your center is rare. It's magnetic. The paradox is this: the less you try to impress others, the more impressed they become. Why? Because most people are trying too hard. They're striving, pushing, posting, proving. When you step back from that noise and simply live with quiet strength, you stand out. You show that you don't need attention to feel valuable. That's rare. That's powerful. So cultivate your mystery. Speak with intention. Move with purpose. Share selectively. Be fully present without being fully exposed. Let people feel your energy without handing them all the answers. And most of all, stay grounded. Because grounded mystery is the kind that endures. It doesn't fade with trends. It doesn't depend on reactions. It lives in the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need to explain. Its wholeness attracts neediness. Repels the most attractive energy in the world, wholeness. When you're full within yourself, when you're not looking for approval, the world feels it and responds. You don't need to shout to be noticed. You need to glow from within. So, be still, be intentional, be grounded. And remember, the quieter you become, the more you will command. Subscribe for more insights on mastering your inner world and becoming your most magnetic self. Your next level doesn't need more noise, it needs more depth.